Hello everyone, this is Jason from Primetime Aquatics. Thanks for being here. In today's video I wanted to talk about fish rooms. Whether or not they're a good idea, if you are considering one or thinking about upsizing your fish tank and fish keeping hobby, let's go take a closer look. It's not all you think it is. So before we even get into this, many of you, if you've been watching the channel for a while, know that the fish room at one point had a lot more aquariums. On both sides of our basement, we had this part here, and that was completely removed and turned into the gallery, which now looks like this. And then we've got this side here, and this is what it looked like, but even that is being downsized. And now we can see what we've got going on here in the middle of a downsizing of our fish room. And really the only downsizing we have left is just to get rid of this center area. So when it comes to a fish room, it can make a lot of sense. And one of the reasons why I did this is really I go back to a childhood dream I had of being able to walk into a room filled with aquariums and just being surrounded by them. And it's a very relaxing thing. I love it. But you also have to be very thoughtful about how you set up your fish room. And so if you're thinking about keeping multiple tanks, and I'm sure many of you have multiple tanks, and maybe they're all throughout the house and they're in various rooms, and there can be an advantage to that because, well, when you have fish tanks all throughout the house, guess what? You get to enjoy them in the rooms in which they are in. When you have a fish room like this, I walk down in the basement and this is what I see, and it's awesome, but I have to be down here. And the only reason to be down on this side of the fish room is, of course, to look at the fish. And if I'm not going to be doing that, well, guess what? I don't spend as much time down here as a lot of people think that I might. I mean, it's pretty awesome, but one of the reasons why I'm getting ready to do a remodel here is I want this to be more of an area where I can just come in and sit down. And if I were to scroll back right now, that's not really happening because there's really no place just to sit and enjoy the aquariums. And so I'm going to get rid of this center island and put seating in here. And I think that's going to help a lot. So when it comes to fish rooms, identify what the purpose is and really try to be realistic about whether or not you're going to be spending a lot of time with your fish. Sometimes it's just better to have the tanks in a room where you're naturally going to be as opposed to putting them all in one room. Now, if you are somebody who's thinking about breeding fish or you want to keep lots of different types and it's just not becoming economically feasible to have tanks just kind of all throughout the home or an apartment in different rooms, having a fish room can have some big advantages. And so first thing I would say is this, and that is that central air system. And we've talked about sponge filters in the past and how this works. I'll put that video in the upper right hand corner, but that can be a huge advantage. Just being able to filter all of your aquariums from one filtration system saves a lot of money. The other thing is this room is heated. So as you look at these aquariums, there really aren't any heaters in any of these tanks. The only exception, yeah, I think I still have a heater in this center aquarium. I don't even think it's on. It was left over from a long time ago, but it's nice being able to heat the room and not have to spend a lot of money on individual heaters, and that takes a lot of energy as well. And so if you are someone who's keeping a lot of tanks and you want to have that energy advantage both with the temperatures and with, again, that central air pump, that can be a massive savings. And if you're looking to breed fish, and because you want to breed fish, you're going to need lots of different size tanks, and you want to do what I've done here and start stacking tanks vertically, that might not look the best in a living room or a bedroom, but in a fish room, as you can see here, it makes a lot of sense, and it can definitely fit in and have a really nice look. But know that there's also a lot of cost involved in having a fish room. In fact, I did a video years ago, back when we had 53 aquariums. I'm going to put that in the upper right-hand corner. Watch that video. Because the cost of a fish room to set it up, even when you do it as I've done it, which wasn't the most expensive way, wasn't the cheapest either, but even doing it this way, and I built all my own stands and everything, and I didn't go crazy with the lights at first, the costs add up in a hurry. And it can be a little bit shocking, but more than just the cost of building out the fish room, it's your time. And so you have to think about how much time do you have? Do you really have time to maintain these aquariums? I've been really honest over the years, and I've shared that my boys are technically employees of our business, Primetime Aquatics. We pay them, or now it's just Eli, we pay him to maintain these aquariums. I'm not down here maintaining these 25 aquariums or so. because I don't have the time to do it. And when he goes off to college here pretty soon, I will be doing that. And that's one of the reasons why we've kind of reduced the number of tanks that we have. It'll make it a little bit easier for me. And I've put systems in place. And so one, I've got running water right here. And so it's pretty easy to fill the tanks. I've got this system that I built where I can just go around, fill tanks. I have a wastewater system. Let me see if I can show you what that looks like down there. There's PVC down there. And so I can just put the Python hoses right directly into that, and it drains into a floor drain. And so you do get some savings in that way, but understand that even with that, cleaning all these sponge filters every week, doing the water changes, making sure the tanks look decent so I can put them on camera, maybe not something you're going to have to worry about, but it is something that we have to deal with. All that takes time. And Eli's down here on this side of the fish room probably about 6 to 8 hours a week, making sure that these tanks look the way they do so that they're enjoyable to look at. And that's just, it's something you have to think about. Are you going to have quarantine tanks now that you've got a bunch of other fish tanks? You definitely should. And so here's our garbage cans kind of in the way, but that's our quarantine setup right here. And so when we get new fish in the fish room, we are not putting them directly into aquariums. And so you've got to think about the cost to build it. You've got to think about the cost for your time, obviously the space. The big thing, and one of the situations that we've run into lately, and that was a question that we had to struggle with, at what point are you turning a hobby into a job? And I can promise you, your hobby is always going to be more enjoyable when it's a hobby compared to when it's a job. When you have work to do that you have to do, that can be not so fun, especially when you have other things that you'd rather be doing on a Saturday or a Sunday after maybe working a full-time job than having to go in the fish room and clean tanks. And if you're breeding fish, figure that situation out, move fish around. So those are just some things to consider if you are going to be getting or thinking about building out a fish room. So once again, if you want more information about what it costs roughly to build out a fish room, I will put that video in the upper right-hand corner. If you want more information just about how we did our filtration system, check out that video in the lower right-hand corner. As always, thank you so much for being here. We'll see you next week.